Back Row Ministry, the world premiere, Mr. Martin coming back at you live and direct. So I haven't posted too many videos in a while. Caught some of the information I put out. Just check last video I put out. Very good video with a great deal of information. Information cannot be blocked anymore. Things have been made common knowledge now. More information is coming out. So YouTube is not just going to be able to just block videos and knock them down anymore like they were accustomed to doing, since the information that is out now has been verified by certain sources. So let's talk about Dune Part 2 for those who had the opportunity to see Dune and watch different versions of the Dune saga. One thing Hollywood keeps doing, and if you look at this poster, you see how Paul is to the right of Shanti. You already see where they're going with this. Dune is not about Shanti. Dune is about Paul. And as we continue this battle of the sexes Hollywood routine, they continue to try to rewrite things that have already been written and continue this narrative that they have to change it to make it fit their agendas. But this is not that type of thing. So Dune was written in the 60s. It's a very, very old book. And there are reasons why characters in Dune play the roles that they play. There's a reason why Paul plays his role. It's a reason why Shanti's role is very important. And Shanti's role is not to be at odds with Paul. So a lot of people like Dune Part 2. I personally could not stand the movie. I did not like how they portrayed certain characters. I did not like how they minimized certain events, especially the drinking of the water of life. I did not like the stupidity of some of the writing choices. One of the most stupid things in the script, and if you read the books or you saw the different versions, I saw all the Dune versions. I just got through watching Children of Dune, which I have to say is a very, very good miniseries. But one of the stupidest things they did was the whole thing with the water of life. And I think somebody pointed out the way that they played the Bene Gesserits is that they were just these really supposed to be these wise women, but stupid. And this is what Hollywood does. Now, Hollywood is always talking about the strong woman, yet they portray a sect of women who are very powerful at just being stupid, who can't conceal a plan, and then they don't know things that they know. So in the movie, this new adaptation, Jessica does not know anything about the water of life. Yet all the Bene Gesserits know about the water of life because they drink the water of life in order to become a Reverend Mother. This is common knowledge in the book. This is just basic ass Bene Gesserit information. They know. And we see Jessica, well, what is it? What are you doing? And she's just like a bumbling idiot. So, going that far away from the book, I think is crossing the line. Why would you make this set, which is one of the most powerful sets in the universe, a bunch of idiots? They don't know what the fuck is going on. They have no knowledge of the powers of the spice. They don't know too much about the worms. I mean, it's just stupid to even do it like that. But that goes back to where we're going to lift up women as far as warriors, but they're stupid as far as strategists and leaders. They're just totally stupid. They can't plot. They can't plan. That's the way that they kind of wrote it. But you see, just with the way that the poster is, look where Shanna, where she's standing, and look where Paul. Basically, Paul's behind her. And remember, we always talk how things are in the picture. The story is not about Shanna. Not this story. Not this story. But Shauna is very important to what goes on with Arrakis. Remember now, she is the savior of Arrakis because she has the power of creation. And what she creates saves Arrakis. And she is right. A Fremen will save Arrakis. And that we see later on down the line. But she plays a very important role, especially when we come to the drinking of the water of life. Not this, I rubbed a tear on his lip bullshit that I don't know what the fuck what he was trying to create with this part right here. Like I said, it was a total minimizing of this water of life drinking. That was a big issue for me because this was one of the most important themes of the book and of Paul's journey. He's got to drink this water of life, and he sneaks off to do it. So Shana doesn't know he did it. His mother doesn't know he did it. He sneaks off and drinks the water of life. He doesn't tell anybody he's going to do it. He does it on his own, and he really messes himself up really, really bad. They thought at one point he was going to die because he was unconscious for a long period of time. So it just wasn't no drinking. I rub a tear on his lips, and he comes back, and then I slap the shit out of him. And that's the other thing I did not like. This whole thing where we got to be at odds. If you love a person, and if you ever been in a relationship, male, female relationship, male, male relationship, just a relationship with your partner, female, female relationship with your partner, we usually try to see things from our partner's perspective. Now, there's going to be some opposition. Yes, there's going to be some opposition. But never at the lengths of how they tried to put it in this movie because they were overdoing it. And they always overdo it. And remember now, she got to be the warrior. If you see the poster, she's the one with the knife. She's the warrior. This movie is not about that. It's not about that. It's deeper than that on a universal level. Her power is not she has a knife and a blade and she can kill people. That's not Shani's power in this. That's far from her purpose in this, but she has a purpose in Dune. Does she agree with some of the things that Paul is doing? No. And she says it in her book, and I think the Dune miniseries from Sci-Fi really, they kind of take some liberties themselves. They kind of write some extra stuff, but it's real clear that she has a lot of fear about the path that Paul's on. She understands the prophecy because of who her father was in the book. And they make this character, Liette. Liette is female, but they don't say that Liette is Shani's mother. They don't do that. They don't do that at all. So it's like Liette is totally worthless, which Liette plays a very important role in the book. So Liette could have been a female, but still she needs to play the role that she played in the book, that she is connected with Shani. And Shani's very, very, very wise when it comes to the Bene Gesserits. She's very wise when it comes to the worms. She's very wise when it comes to the water of life. Very intelligent when it comes to the prophecy itself. Very intelligent when it comes to these things. And had some doubts about Paul inside of that, if he is the Kwisatz Haderach or the Savior. She also in the book does believe that the Savior should come from one of the Fremen. But she knows the prophecy better than anybody. She knows this prophecy better than anybody. In the movie, this version, she doubts the prophecy. Prophecy is stupid. There's just some shit that old people, and this is another thing that Hollywood does, trying to put in the cultures of today, which are totally disrespectful to the past. This young generation is totally disrespectful to the past, to past cultures. They just are not in touch with history. And they shit and piss all over history. You see that in the movie, that it's okay to shit and pitch all over your own culture. You just downplay your own culture. And we see that in the movie. But that's all in this. We need, her to be this warrior goddess and all this BS, which that's not her role. That's not her intent. That's not the ultimate goal. And I'm tired of women downplaying their own strength and ability. The most powerful weapon that the woman has is the power of creation. The power of their mind, the way that they think. And it's always, well, you got to have a knife and be the great warrior to be a strong woman. No, you don't. You just got to know how to fucking think. You have to know how to think. Women are spiritually and emotionally much stronger than men. Psychologically, a lot stronger than men for the most part. So stop minimizing those characteristics as though they're not important, which in this story, they are very important. So those was a lot of the issues I had, especially that water life issue. Really, to me, just killed the whole entire movie. Aaliyah not being there killed the entire movie. Aaliyah must be born. There must be the time jump, because during this period, Shani and Paul get closer together, but those doubts are created in that time period. There's some doubts in there. There's some fears in that time period. Remember, this is a 2-year time period. But Aaliyah must be born for this story to work. And somebody pointed out, now you're in a situation where Aaliyah's not born. Aaliyah's not born. Her killing the Baron in the book and in the most miniseries in the other version is very important, because that goes into play down the road with some stuff that's going to happen with Aaliyah as the story moves on. You'll see that if you watch Children of Dune, you'll start to see some of this stuff. Very important that she committed that murder. But by removing that and having Paul do it, I don't know which way they're going with it. I don't know how you kind of get yourself out of that. But Aaliyah is very important to this story. She is a very important part of this story. And they kind of wiped her, and we'll bring her later. It's not going to be the same impact. It's not going to be the same impact. So, to really get a sense of Aaliyah, I suggest watching the Dune miniseries from Sci-Fi. You can find it on YouTube now, to get kind of a feel of why Aaliyah is important, some stuff that's going on with Aaliyah. It's going to be important moving on. If you watch Children of Dune after that, you'll see why Aaliyah was so important, why she had to be born. The death of Paul's first son is important. It's important because that's going to play into everything after with Shani. There's a lot of important stuff with Shani that got wiped that should not have been wiped, as I said. So the murder of Leto the First is very important to the story. And what I don't like, when you got source material, use your source material. You can go outside and stretch some stuff here and stress them. But when you start stressing too far, you miss out on important parts. We're talking about emotionally and psychologically things that are important that you've removed. Down the road, these things matter, because that has a psychological effect on Shani, and it has a fully psychological and emotional effect on Paul, because there's some stuff that's going to come into play with the death of his first son that's going to affect him moving forward and have a lot to do with his future and the path that he would take. So when you wipe something that you make, well, that's minimal. Losing your child is never minimal. Men, yeah, we play the role that emotionally I can take it, psychologically I can take it. But with Paul, this is going to affect him moving forward. He plays the role good, but Paul is a human being. He has feelings, and he loves his wife. He loves Shani to the point where that is going to affect him to a point where, it's very important that part happen, because it affects them fully. So removing some things out of from the book that should have went into the movie, that I know you didn't have the time. Well, maybe they should have made a third movie. I think Dune, they should have stretched it out one another. So they could have covered some parts in that 2-year period, use this middle movie to kind of push us into that 2-year period. Then had the third movie where we get to the battle. We don't need the battle in the second movie. We could have waited the third movie. Kind of like Lynch tried to break his up. Was kind of an idea what he was doing. But, still, he messed a lot in his book too. In his movie too. But, this could have been 3, and then you come back on the backside, you could do the other 3. You could did 6 movies successfully with the material you had, and just make some quirks here, make some quirks there. I didn't like what they did with Lady Jessica and Aaliyah not being born and this crazy BS. Lady Jessica is not evil. She's a survivor, and that's one thing that you see with how she approaches, even in the book, how she approaches the prophecy. She's using the prophecy to keep them alive. Remember now, these are outworld people going into a foreign culture, already seen as the enemy. They, these people have been under colonized for 80 years, going into House Atreides coming here. So they've already, hey, we can't trust these folks. They have some stuff that they can barter with the weirding way, and Jessica being a Bene Gesserit. But outside of that, what else do they have to keep them alive? And luckily they had that prophecy. So yeah, she uses the prophecy to her advantage. That's something she does do, but she's not plotting on people to get them to believe in something that they already have a notion of. This might be the prophecy clears. Remember, anytime you're dealing with prophecy and people really believe in prophecies like the Fremen do, who are very religious people, are very spiritual people, they're going to go with the prophecy based on things that they begin to see. But Paul has to do a lot inside of this to really, really get them to start seeing that way. But does not mean that everybody believe that shit. Does not mean that. So those was, some parts of the movie I did not like how they did Jessica, because you didn't need that. Plus with Jessica, with Aaliyah, that's something that she deals with throughout. The birth of Aaliyah being infected by the water of life, Aaliyah coming out of Bene Gesserit. There's a lot that Jessica has to deal with when it comes to her own daughter and kind of getting through just that, because that's a lot for her. Then she's got to deal with the Paul situation as well. That's a lot for her. So those are some changes I didn't like. But, just looking at the poster, you already see what they're trying to do. He behind her, she's the leader, and that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. You didn't need that poster right there. And, they're together. Dune is about relationships. And there's a lot of different relationships in Dune, and their relationship is one of the most important relationships, and we needed that 2 years to allow that relationship to build, to allow all the parts and the intricate parts of that to work out. One good thing the miniseries does, different from both of these movies, is the miniseries has the scene at the beginning where they have the dinner, and they put the Emperor's daughter in there to kind of give the Emperor's daughter a little bit more room in the book. It's not a lot of focus on the Emperor's daughter, a little bit here, but not a lot. They kind of added that to kind of create that dynamic between her and Paul early on, and the Emperor's daughter with the plotting and all this. I think part of that's the book, but not a lot. But you see her plotting, kind of trying to see what's going on, being very political, which she was trying to position herself. But that goes on later in the line when Paul does to bring some form of his own personal peace to the galaxy, pretty much to take the seat of the Emperor. He marries the daughter to kind of keep the peace, because they plotted on them. And at the end of the day, when you had the Spacing Guild in the movie saying, no, the hell with Paul, no, that would have been stupid. And this is another thing that this movie did that was stupid. You don't challenge a person that has the high ground in any fight. You know that. You remember Star Wars Return of the Sith, the last fight that got Darth Vader messed up. He challenged Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi had the high ground. You never mess with a person that has a high ground. Paul and the Fremen had control of the spice. Paul was willing to poison. After he learned about the worms, he learned from Shani how they created the spice. He was willing to release poisonous water into the desert and kill off as many of the worms as possible to stop spice production. So the Fremen held the control at that point. They had total control. Paul had total control over the spice. And at the end of the day, the spice must flow. Ain't no friends. That was the whole thing, that the Spacing Guild, there's no friends. The navigators, there's no friends. We need spice. Remember now, this is also a drug. And that's another thing that's more focused in the miniseries than it is in both the movies, that this spice is like cocaine. It's cocaine. And you'll see later on down the line as Paul starts to get more and more addicted to it. You know, he's taking more and more. He's out there. You see Aaliyah doing it, taking more and more. She's kind of out there. So they get addicted to the spice. The navigators are addicted to this shit. The Bene Gesserit, they're addicted to this stuff. It's a drug. It's like heroin. It's a drug. So it's got to keep flowing or we can't get high. Why would you risk a war where this person can destroy the spice? So in the book and in the miniseries, the truce was made, the spice flowed. They didn't really give a damn about the emperor. They didn't get another emperor, which they did, Paul. They just cared about the spice. And that showed you where the Spacing Guild's purpose was. They cared about the spice. And as you move forward, there'll be more control of the spice because there'll be less spice. But the world changes. You know, over time, the world's going to change. But, you know, that was the big thing that, hey, they were defeated. They understood they were defeated, and they weren't going to push the button. So the Fremen pretty much took control. They took control of the spice production, and spice production ran through them. Paul just sat on the seat pretty much. So, very important things that I feel that Dune Part 2 kind of took away from, things that I felt that were very important to the story. Key parts that if you continue or they make this other movie, I don't know how they're going to go with this because the Shani relationship has to be saved. I don't know if they're going to have Shani versus Paul, which will totally be a bunch of BS and a total rewrite of the books. And I wouldn't do that. It makes no sense because Shani's character is too important for that to happen. It's too important for that to happen. And closing out the last part is the naivety of Shani. Being a totally naive person. And Paul kind of having that conversation about the marriage on paper. For centuries, there have been marriages of convenience. That don't mean they were sexual by nature. There were no children conceived. These were what we call marriages of convenience. This was Paul's marriage to the emperor's daughter. It was a marriage of convenience. She was not going to have any heirs. On paper, pretty much to keep her alive, that was the marriage, and keep her family alive also. That's the reason why the marriage took place. So the emperor he wasn't murdered. His family wasn't murdered. But Paul took the seat as the emperor. Shani never lost her role. Her role is concubine or his wife. When we hear the term concubine, a lot of times people think, oh, no. And you'll see that later on down the road in another situation where a man becomes the concubine later on down the road. But Shani understood this. She understood that. She understood that this marriage had to take place. She understood that there had to be some form of order in the galaxy and universe because Shani was very intelligent. She wasn't this naive little girl, oh, I'm mad, let me go jump on a worm and I'm going to run away from the situation. How you going to run away from the situation? Why would you even think about running away from the situation when you are with the most powerful man in the universe? Does that make any sense? So you don't want to be with the most powerful man in the universe because you don't want to be the side girl. So you run away into the woods and leave him for what? When he's not having any form of relationship with this person. There's not going to be any children. There's not going to be any sleeping together. There's not going to be anything. It's just on paper. And you run away from the relationship. Why again? Why? Why are you running away? And that's what I mean. Now, you interject more of this new, youthful thinking society and this so-called independent woman that you created into a film where that's just totally stupid. That's just totally stupid. In this society, these little kids will be the first ones to say, oh, well, marriage don't mean nothing. Well, if marriage don't mean nothing, why she jumping on a worm taking off? I mean, if it doesn't mean anything, she's taking it personally. This is not personal. This is not personal. This is power. Power at very high levels. Power that takes an understanding. Duke Leto didn't marry Jessica because of the same thing. He did not want to create a situation whereas if truces could be made, she was going to be in the way. And she did not marry him because of that. She understood that. She was not naive. She was not born of that or born of those levels. And Shani understands this too. She understands this. So she's not going into this whole thing naive. I'm not the side chick, I'm the wife. I'm really the wife. Everything else is on paper. This is what has to happen. Remember, we're talking about the universe. We're not talking about some personal shit. And when you write a character, now she's taking bigger things personally. What is the purpose? You make that character an idiot because they're naive. They're thinking, what are they thinking with? They ain't thinking with I'm thinking with my heart. My heart is broke. He's with you. What the fuck are you talking about? He's not with the other person. He's with you. And you ride off on a worm to achieve what? So, by doing it, and this is after. In the book, miniseries, Lynch's movie don't touch on it, but this is after they've already conceived the child. Mind that. That's why the child is so important. Because they've already conceived the child. The child gets murdered. So they have this loss. They're both dealing with this loss of their child. This is why I said it was very important that child be born. Because their link is even stronger. Plus Liette. When Liette dies, that begins to create a bond between them. But when they lose their child, they bear a child, and then lose their child. And then during this part, Paul is really, really watching. He's watching Shani. He's got a lot of fears going into the future. Remember now, because after he drinks the water of life, he can see the future. So he's got a lot of fears. He's got a lot of concerns. There's a lot of things going in his mind. He's really emotionally all over the place when it comes to Shani. He's emotionally all over the place. So he's really, really at this point of, I got to watch this situation because it's something coming he can't stop. He's going to try, but he's not going to be able to be successful. And he understands this going into what the path that he's got to go down. There's a lot of fear with Paul, and there's a lot of fear he has for Shani at this point. He's really, really, he's playing it, but at the same time, he has an understanding of what's going to happen, and he's really afraid. So that's why that 2 years is very important. That's why you couldn't have that big old huge 2-year gap inside of the movie, because you create this issue as though, it's too easy for her to get on that worm and ride off. Do she really love him? Do she really care about him? Do she care about him enough to understand what the hell is going on? You didn't create that. You just created, well, there's only been a couple of months. The baby ain't even born. We ain't even 9 months. And we talking about a 2-year period where a lot takes place that brings their relationship closer, which makes this decision a lot easier for her to deal with, because they got so much vested in it, and she know he don't give a fuck about her. That's the other part, where taking away that 2 years kind of affects everything. He don't give a fuck about her. She know that by this time, because they got too much that is taking place between them. And we talk about the whole water life scene. And remember, it's Shani who does what she has to do to bring him back during this water life scene, and kind of gains the understanding that, hey, something ain't right here. And, she realizes he's drank the water life. Nobody else knew what the fuck was going on. Jessica didn't even know he drank the water life, but she realizes he's drunk the water life, and she does what she got to do to kind of bring him back. So she's very intricate to saving his life also. So it's too much vested for them just to, well, I'm mad, let me go ride off on a worm now. I mean, it's too much vested. That's why you can't take liberties. Do another movie. Politic for 3 movies. You need this other movie. Because if you politic for 2, you're going to miss out on things that are important, and that's what happened. You missed out on the creation of the relationship, which makes things more understandable as you move forward. Of why she ain't naive like this, because of the creation of the relationship. So those are things that I feel that were done very, very wrong in this movie. I'm not a fan of the movie. Stylistically, the way the movie's filmed, beautiful. Everything about all the Dune movies, except for sci-fi. Sci-fi is cheesy, but it still kind of tackles some good stuff too. If you watch sci-fi, for its time, for a TV production, they do a great job. Except for the, Children of Dune is a little bit more cheesy, but you can deal with it because the story is strong, and the acting's real good in Dune, and Children of Dune. But beautifully shot movie, badly written. Beautifully shot, badly written, goes too far away from the book, and misses out on the key things. You can't minimize very important things. Time is an important aspect in life. Time is very important because time changes things. And we had a situation where time changed a relationship. It made it more stronger. And we took that away. And what we got is, the minute some shit went off, I'm just gonna leave this person. They were too emotionally invested in each other just to walk away. Especially Paul. He was really emotionally invested in Shani, knowing what he knew at this point, to let her even walk away. It wouldn't have been that easy for him just to let her walk away. Trust, there's too much time inside of this. So that's my opinion of Dune Part 2. Not really a fan, due to a lot of mistakes they made in that adaptation and just taking key parts from the book that should have been in the movie, which kind of hurt the movie in my opinion. Back Row Ministry, peace and hair grease.